All right, so recording has started. So welcome to the first half, Yoga Flow. And we're gonna do a lot of standing movement today, and then we'll eventually come down onto the floor and get our rest in at the end there. So while you're standing, if it feels comfortable to do so, you can start to slowly work your eyes closed. So that could just mean blinking a couple of times, starting to get a sense for, okay, my balance is going to be fine while my eyes are closed. If closing your eyes doesn't work for you, you can always just draw your gaze down towards the floor and make it blurry, like you're not really concentrating on one thing. And in your standing position here, you might already start sensing what's going on with your toes and your feet and your ankles. Usually when you get rid of your visual, your brain doesn't know where the horizon is. And so you might find you're even just shifting a tiny bit more than you would guess. So from this standing position, you're welcome to wiggle a little through the heels, through the feet, through the toes. You could take little bends in the knees. You could start to feel your hips shift a little forward or back or side to side. It's nice to start with subtle little movements. Just get a feel for how your balance is doing today, and can you feel all 10 of your toes now that they're out of your shoes and you have a chance to spread all of them out. I'm electing not to wear socks today, but maybe you have socks, so you can sense how they're feeling on your feet. And if you're starting to build some curiosity, maybe you're also moving your arms in some way. Maybe you're wiggling your fingers or rolling through your wrists. Maybe you're twisting and letting the arms sort of dance at your sides. Could be small little turns. If you're a neck lover, maybe your neck is somehow doing something for you. I know these seem sometimes like small little novel movements, but if you haven't paid attention to your body all day and you've just been on autopilot to get to your mat right now, then it's nice to just find all the pieces, everything below the brain, right? So take another moment. I'll give you a little bit of quiet so you can really feel and use your inner eye to pay attention to your bones and tissue.
So helpful. Yeah.
Nice. If you haven't given yourself a chance to twist a little bit, then go ahead and give your torso a little twist. So that might look like keeping your lower body stationary and then really letting your shoulders and arms kind of flail. If you find a spot that you're like, oh, I would love to hang out there for a minute or two, then take your twist and stick with a particular spot, one or the other. You might even try to twist while your head, your face is forward, keeping it centered while your body and shoulders go. Yeah, can get tricky when you're trying to keep one thing centered and your head's like, no, I want to go with my shoulders. And if you haven't had a chance to reach up towards the sky today, if you've been typing, hands down, shoulders forward, then maybe reach up or reach back behind you through fingers, through elbows. Doesn't have to be straight arms. Start to work into the shoulders a little. You might get some rolling action happening. And then just another moment or two where you get to play fully from top to bottom. So wiggle, shift, you might bend forward or back, you might reach a side to side, but Just another moment before we get a little bit more uniform with what everybody's doing together. Since we're standing, you might take a forward fold, find a way to wiggle into a hip. So many options while you're standing. Nice. It's always delightful to just get a full body move and stretch in before we start really honing it down, right? All right, so come back to your center and you're gonna find a real nice grounding down through the feet. So that might look like feet that are right underneath your hips. Your feet could be a little bit wider than your hips. If you enjoy a narrow foot, then bring your feet a little bit closer, but find what feels stable for you. And then you're gonna start to rock forward and back. So from heel to toe. And if you've already been kind of playing with that a little bit, then you might already be going like, oh, I want to lift my heels. And then when I come back, I want to lift my toes. And be as particular as you want to be. If you want to pay attention to your big toe pressing in, if you want to find what your pinky toe is up to, maybe you're sensing the inside and the outside of your heels as you're going forward and back. Perhaps you can feel that line from the big toe all the way to the heel, that like little band of fascia kind of working and moving and stretching a little. And then the next time that you come forward onto the toes, I want you to pause and hold. You decide how high the ankles, the feet, the heel is going to reach up. Maybe the heel is just a little bit off the ground. Maybe it needs to tap and bounce on the ground for stability, or maybe it can reach really high. It's up to you, but we're kind of tiptoeing it, if you will, for a moment. And if you feel like your ankles are rolling out to the sides, you want to draw them in a little bit. So you're really pressing down into that big toe. And then take a slow lower with your heels back down to the ground. And if you just like drop the heels, fine, you're going to get another chance to try again. So when you're down on your heels, now you're going to lift your toes up and you're going to pause and you're going to hold the toes up. It might just literally be your toes. You might be lifting a little bit of the front of your pad of your foot. You might really need to concentrate on digging that heel down or even shifting your hips and shoulder weight. And then slowly let your pads of your foot and then your toes come back down. You're flat-footed. And then we're going to take that round once more. So you'll shift forward onto your toes and you decide how high the heel goes up. So how high do you want your heels to reach up? And if you get that reach up and then your ankles start to bow out a little bit, bring them back into center, even if you have to lower your ankles down, trying to create that direct line of stability for those ankles and all those good ankle muscles. And then when you're ready to lower, take a real slow lower down, dropping the heels, trying to keep those ankles from bowing out to the sides. And then you're gonna come to the whole foot for a moment, rock back onto the heels, lift your toes, maybe a little bit of the pad of the foot. You don't do that move very often, right? But that's kind of the move you make with your heel as you're coming upstairs. You got to kind of lift that foot and set it down. So we're just holding it for a moment. Yeah, I like the wiggles that are happening. That's strength that's working, right? All right, you can shift forward fully, nice and slow back to your full foot. Maybe you'd like to shift the weight into your right foot and then get a little roll around with your ankle on the left. It's kind of nice to dig those toes in. Either toes can be up or toes can be tucked under. And just give yourself a little leverage to roll around in that ankle, any which direction. Yeah, nice. And then if you haven't switched yet, then you'll shift your weight to the other foot and you can start rocking and rolling around in your second ankle. Either have those toes down and tucked and roll around, or the toes can be up. You use the leverage of the floor any way you need to stretch in. And then just shake it off. We're done with the feet and the ankles for a moment. We're gonna take the arms into like a cactus position. And there's no right or wrong here. The elbows don't need to be in any particular way or forward or back. It just needs to feel a little cozy. And from that cactus position, you're gonna try to take the palms and face them down towards the floor by rotating your shoulders in. So imagine from your elbow to your shoulder isn't moving, it's just your elbow to your palm that's moving. So your upper arm pretty much stays level with the floor as you bring your palms kind of up and down, sort of like you're doing a wave, both hands. And you get to rotate the shoulders as much as you want. So maybe your palms face almost back behind you. Or maybe they just face down towards the floor. We're just getting a little rotation here for the shoulders. Kind of a fun way. Nice. And then do one more round or so. I know some people are kind of up, some people are down, but the next time that you come up with your palms back to that cactus-like, goalposty-like, you're gonna try to draw your elbows back behind you a little bit. So you're gonna let the shoulder blades, they're gonna try to reach in towards each other, towards your spine, like the doors closing. So you're just kind of opening the front of the chest. And you don't have to be at any particular height. You can always drop the elbows down a little bit if that feels nice. Get a really good squeeze. And then you can bring the arms down to your sides, kind of roll through the shoulders, let that go. Nice. And then we're going to work a little with the shoulder blades for a moment. So you can let your arms rest at the sides. And instead of envisioning the upper part of your shoulder reaching up towards your ears, you're going to try to envision your actual shoulder blades sliding up and down your back. So it's going to be a lot less of a movement. So you're going to let the shoulder blades come up a little, and then you're going to pull the shoulder blades down your back. So it's not a scrunching of your shoulders up towards your ears. You're just feeling a little shift of your shoulder blades. And if you're like, I don't know if my shoulder blades are moving, just try. You might, if you really feel like your shoulder blades aren't going anywhere, you might just give them like a little tap and be like, okay, that's where my shoulder blade is. That's the part that needs to move. Sometimes it helps to just touch it to light it up in your brain a little. All right, and then we're going to take a rounding of the shoulders forward so that your shoulder blades are going to come apart. And then you'll take a reaching of the shoulder blades back towards each other like you're closing those doors, if you can imagine your shoulder blades closing. So it's just a little forward and back motion, a little rounding the shoulders in, and then opening them back up. And then anything else that feels particularly nice, if one of those felt better than the other and you're like, oh, I want to go back to that other thing. And just for a moment, you might go back to like the cactus squeeze or the reach behind you, something that felt extra nice. I like anything that opens my chest because I spend all day like, you know, rounding, doing that thing. All right, and then soften through the shoulders so that they just drop away, they melt from the ears. And then you're going to take your right knee up towards your chest. So stabilize to that left leg. And this could just be I'm coming to my toes, or it can be I'm going to lift a little bit, or it can be I'm going to lift it high. Maybe I grab onto my leg. Maybe I hold onto a wall, a chair, something. These are all amazing options. We're just trying to get to one standing leg with a little flexion in one of our knees. And then whatever that knee height is, doesn't matter. You're going to kick that knee open towards the side. So it's sort of like a tree-ish pose. Even if your foot's down the ground, your hip still externally rotated. It's fine. You're doing the same thing as everybody else. And then you're going to draw it back in. And then you can open it back up. No matter what height your knee is at, you can always drop the toes to the ground and open and close. You can keep that knee bent and open and close it high up. Totally up to you. The more wiggles and wobbles, even if you're holding onto a wall or a chair, the more you're getting that ankle some love. All right, go ahead and step back into a high lunge, however you want to get there. And then from this high lunge, you could either have hips square, you can have them a little bit more open, yogi's choice. You just want to feel nice and stable in that lunge. And you're gonna take your vision and you're gonna like turn your head just to the side a little bit. And then see if it feels just like even a little bit more wobbly. Just because you took that line of vision, that horizon, and you just shifted it. It always makes me want to tip over, but this is a subtle little thing, trying to confuse your brain. And then maybe you turn your head to the other ear gently. And then I always want to lean the other direction a little. But press down through the feet. And then you can bring your head back to center. And when you take your step forward, you're going to generate from all the beautiful balance that we have been playing with today. So your ankle's alive, it's been working, it's been stretching. So really lean forward into that standing leg and see if even just allowing that back foot to come just a tiny bit off the ground and you drag it forward. You can have your leg like crazy high up to the sky. It doesn't matter. As long as you're giving your front leg a chance to bear some weight and to give you a little bit of balance as you drag that foot forward, whether it's lifted, whether it's touching the floor. And then you stand and let it go. All right, same for our second side. So we're gonna get a little into the hip first. You wanna shift your weight into that standing right leg. And then build your balance. So toes down, and you play with turning your hip in and out. You could have the knee up, turning that hip in and out. You might be holding on to something, you might be freestanding. And you might start to notice some of those hip flexors on the outer hip working as you pull your knee open. Some inner muscles bringing your knee back in towards center. And then coming into your high lunge, you can simply step it back, or you can give yourself a little moment of challenge to get there. But either way, you're coming into your standing lunge of choice. It could be different from the other side. And then we're gonna just change the horizon for a moment. So tilt your head to one direction. And then find your heels, find all 10 toes. Take a moment to stabilize. And then just as your brain is like, I got this, you're gonna switch. So turn your ear to the other shoulder and change the angle of your eyes again. And find some grounding through those feet. I find the more you blink, the more challenging it can be too, because you're just taking that whole visual away for just a moment. Oh, and then bring it back to center. And again, it's yogi's choice. How do you want to create that balance moving forward? Your ankle has been happy to be working for you. So do you want to just shift forward, drag that back leg on your toes? Do you want to lift to bring it forward? Do you want to hold on to something? But weight that front leg, take that little bend in the knee. You'll eventually get to standing. Even if you have to build yourself there, even if it's just to like, okay, well, I waited a little bit, now I'm here, it's fine. You gave it a go at your pace today. Next week, it might be like, I could do cartwheels to get to the front. All right, we're gonna come to a seat. If you're ready to just come onto your bottom, you can. If you wanna take like a slow rocking roll / squat down to your bottom, that kind of feels nice sometimes, where you sort of just drape your way to the floor. Even if you get your bottom like close to the floor and then you're like, oh, I don't know if I can sit down from here, then regroup, Change where your feet are, and then you can fully sit down. The good news is I can't hear you at home, whether you're watching this live or recording, so I have no idea how loud that was for you sitting down. All right. From your seat, take a moment to just let the legs relax for a moment, to absorb all the fun little work that you did on your legs, on your ankles, on your toes. Maybe you can sense a little bit more blood flowing there. Maybe you naturally like reach to your feet and were like, ooh, I like a little massage right now. Maybe you're putting your socks on. Maybe you're finding your blanket. For those that are just here for the first portion of the class, I'm going to start to invite you to wind down, to really focus on your breath a little more, start to slow the pace down. Everybody's going to come onto their backside as they're ready. So if you take a slow roll to get there, if you simply childlike take a couple of rocks forward and back and then splay out. If you reach back behind you for support, we're all coming down to our backsides. So it's delightful the way that you want to get there. And if you need a couple of sighs out the mouth to just get yourself reset, big breath through the nose and then as you settle into whatever shape you're taking on your mat. For those that are leaving us, thank you so much for joining this first part of our class where we really get to move and wiggle and maybe build a little strength, stretch a little big. And however much time that you have to give for your rest, I hope that you can stay and follow your breath in and out. Start to let go and soften in as many places as you can. Enjoy the rest of your evening.